Welcome into the Saints Insider Podcast for Wednesday, August the 20th. Zach Ewing here with Matthew Paris, Luke Johnson, and Jeff Duncan, and we are excited for preseason week number 3.
Hell yeah, brother. Let's go. I actually am looking forward to this week's game because that means we get to say no more preseason games. I think I was talking to Matt about this in the Superdome this past week. Maybe it was Matt, maybe it was somebody else. Like, I get like super amped for the first preseason week every year.
So it's just a game.
It's a game. It's changed to the like training camp routine. I'm so excited for it. And then by like the third quarter, I'm ready for preseason to be done.
Yeah, no, I think that was somebody else because I don't recall that conversation at all. But
Matt's eyes had already glazed over.
Yeah, Matt does tend to drown me out every now and then. So
I'd say preseason 3 is way better than preseason game 1, right?
Well, in this case,
what I mean is we're closer to getting done with it.
Sure, preseason game 4 doesn't exist anymore, but that was the biggest slog.
Back in the day, before my time, there was 6.
I was going to say before your time, or
that was a well-timed yawn, by the way. As we talk about
Saints
6 preseason games.
Team played 6 preseason games. Can you imagine? They were in camp for 2 months.
Well, I tweeted out the milestone on Sunday because the Superdome section we did earlier this month, I happened to find out that Sunday was the 504th NFL game in the Superdome. And I had it broken down, 384 regular season games. I think the Saints have played 14 home playoff games, 8 Super Bowls, and then the others, 98 preseason games. Like, it just seems like so many preseason games to sit through.
Coming up on today's show, we'll rank 98 through 1. Saints
That sounds like a summer pod.
we got number 99 on Saturday. Let's start.
Yeah. And honestly, I do think it's actually more interesting than it could have been because the Broncos are going to play some starters, and we still have an ongoing quarterback competition, guys. Like, it's not over yet. That's the news of the day right now.
Yeah. They're the last team in the NFL to name a starting quarterback, which, I guess I probably could have saw that coming.
Last team to name a coach. Last team to name a quarterback.
Last team
to win.
Yeah, maybe.
Super Bowl.
I think I'm honestly like. It has legitimately been very close, I think, throughout camp. I still am leaning Spencer Rattler in this, like in my personal evaluation judgment. But yeah, I think it makes sense to give it this last week. They have it. Why not use it? You know, I get the argument for making the decision early and having you guys know who your starting quarterback is going to be, but like they don't have to make a decision. I don't think this is going to be something that drags on till like. You know, Ian Rappaport tweeting on Saturday that the Saints are starting whoever, before the week 1 game. Right. I think we'll probably have clarity on this by next week. But I do think, like, if you have the time to continue to assess it, like, drag it out because it is very close.
And I think this situation's much different than the other ones that were settled.
I agree.
I mean, they're apples to oranges comparison, so it's not relevant to compare them to the Browns where you have Joe Flacco. He's clearly the starter in that group. I guess Pickett could have beaten him out, but this is a unique situation that I think calls for a unique handling of the situation. I think they're smart. Why? Like Luke said, what is the rush? I know people think, they need to get the one rep with one. These guys have had a ton of reps with the ones, in practice. That's not an issue. It's more important to figure out who your quarterback is.
Well, I also think it's important to note that like none of these guys have really separated themselves to have a moment yet. Like in Indianapolis, Daniel Jones apparently to that coaching staff clearly separated himself from Anthony Richardson. Here, each guy has had their moment. Rattler started off camp really strong. Shuck came on late. First preseason game, it was Shuck who had the big moment. Second one, it was Rattler. So they keep trading back and forth like this, and that doesn't create really hardly any separation. And so, yeah, I mean, taking it to the third preseason game, I think is a smart move. There really is no rush, and, we'll see what Moore ultimately decides.
It is really fascinating, too, to just, like, even, like, breaking down the passes in training camp, the passes in the preseason games, like the overall number of snaps and reps they've gotten is really very close to being like 50-50 on that.
Yeah, and I found it interesting kind of the way Kellen Moore was answering questions about it yesterday. But before we get to that, I want to let you know Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. From small business to big business, home loans to Bank Anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. New deposit customers can reach out today to learn about incredible rate specials. Learn more at bankplus.net. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. And Kellen Moore yesterday was obviously asked, hey, do you have you have a starting quarterback yet? Any news? And he said no. And then he kind of got grilled a little bit on, well, are you just trying to keep it a secret for competitive purposes? And he said no. And for the first time, I almost sensed a little bit of frustration in him. And you guys were standing there. I was just watching the stream. Not necessarily in the fact that he's being questioned about it, but he legitimately is not sure. I think he's like, I don't know. If I knew, I would tell you.
I mean, I bet he has an inkling.
Yeah,
I think it was just that, it was a 15-minute press conference yesterday, and he spent probably 11 of those minutes, answering 55 different variations of the same question. Our guy, John Sokolov, came in at the end and just tried tweaking it a little bit, and Kellen's like, I don't know, man.
I think also, the media corps is so used to Sean Payton and that group that was all into the mind games and playing with the media, and I think Kellen's pretty straightforward for the most part. So I think everybody's trying to dig and see, and I think he's being honest. I don't think he really he may know, like Luke said, but I don't think he's said anything to anybody about any kind of announcement, and they're keeping it in house. I don't think that's the case at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I just think I think it'd be kind of surprising to me if inject him with some true serum, and he's like, I legitimately have no idea. I think he probably is leaning one direction right now, but I think that's a lean. That's still keeping yourself open to making using the full assessment of training camp preseason to make that call.
Yeah, it's close enough to where if Shuck just makes a huge leap this week, I think if we had to choose, we'd say he's probably leaning Rattler still. But if Shuck makes a huge they have 2 more practices. I think today's probably the last open practice we get. They're practicing at the Superdome. Then they practice again Thursday at the facility, and then the game Saturday. One of those guys could theoretically pull away, right?
Right, he could, and I actually think Shuck might be the favorite. Favorite is a strong word, but I'd lean towards Shuck just because if it's so close between the two of them, it's. Shuck is the handpicked guy. It's the thing we've said all along, and it's just more beneficial for them to see a full year of Shuck if that's what it provides. Now, Rattler, in theory, might give them a better chance to win, but I think it's so close that I don't really feel confident saying even that Rattler has more experience. It makes sense to let Shuck learn from behind him and get some more reps. I don't know. I just feel like if it's so close as it has been, then maybe you're just better off going Shuck, and maybe that's what the staff is leaning. But I don't know one way or another yet. I mean, I think this third preseason game actually will tell us something.
I do agree with that take, by the way. I do think that if it is really just a toss up, then you got to go with Shuck. He's the guy you invested the number 40 pick in, and especially if he's somebody who you think has made strides from day one of training camp until now, you can reasonably expect maybe some of that growth to continue during the regular season. But I also think and I've communicated this to y'all before, but you got a veteran-laden team, and if it is clear to the team that Rattler gives them the best chance to win, I don't know, just the way Kellen Moore has operated, I think it's very important to him to have kind of that swell of support in the locker room behind him, and if he's taking the guy based on the future versus the guy based on the present, I think that could work against him a little bit, and I don't think it's gonna if Rattler does start, I think at some point Shuck is gonna start this year. But if he is the guy in the locker room is this is the guy that's been the better one during training camp, I do think there's an element of that you have to consider with this.
And I think also that it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't think they ever come out and tell us exactly all the different factors they're considering. But the one thing that's become apparent during the camp so far is the offensive line, who we thought was going to be this huge strength, is kind of an issue right now. And maybe you want to go with a more mobile guy like Rattler, who can give. He showed in the game the other day his ability to extend plays, get outside the pocket. Maybe that factors heavily into the consideration of trying to win now with this team, because he's certainly more capable of that right now. But the other factor that I think really makes it complicated, and even for us, journalists covering the team, but especially I think for fans, is the context of they're making plays against who they're making plays against. And, can that translate, that 2-minute drive Spencer Rattler had, does that translate to actual Sunday against a real NFL opponent? I mean, they're probably making those calculations in their mind, and it's way more complicated than any of us probably are giving credit for.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's so close. And to your point earlier, Jeff, the downside of this is, okay, maybe the guy who's the starter loses a few reps with the ones, but is that the biggest deal? And then obviously one of them could get hurt in the preseason game on Saturday. That would be the other downside. But I mean, I guess at that point, that your decision's made for you. So they got to let it play out.
I mean, Kellen Moore did not say his plan for the Broncos preseason game of like how many, if the starters are going to play or whatever, but he did kind of, I asked him, do you see this week as like you want to utilize this week to factor into your decision? And he said, yeah. And he said, we have 3 practices and Saturday's game. And so him saying Saturday's game within the context of quarterback work kind of implied to me that both of those guys are going to get some run.
And he did slip up and say both for the first time, kind of.
Right.
First time since like day 1 of training camp. I think he said both.
Yeah. Poor Jake. I am rooting for Fresno State this week, by the way.
You try to get on Jake Hader's good side right now?
They're playing Kansas. Easy
Mizzou guy.
Easy answer.
It's an actual college
Yeah,
game?
they're playing week 0 this week, man. Okay.
Lord.
The Saints did actually make one decision after the game against Jacksonville, and that was to trade for one of the Jaguars. Luke Fortner is now a Saint. Colin Saunders has gone to Jacksonville. And I don't know, Matt, you wrote a little analysis piece about this, really just dealing from a position of relative depth to shore up a position where you don't have a lot of depth.
Yeah, I mean, I think defensive tackle is maybe the deepest position on this team if you just go 1 through, I guess there were 8 guys there. The interior defensive line spots, so including defensive end too. But they acquired Fortner to give them some offensive line depth. They lost Will Clapp to a season-ending foot injury, but trying to like piece together a 53-man projection, there's a lot of guys still that like. Do you keep a legitimate backup nose tackle in case Godshaw gets hurt? If you do, then that seems to be a really good sign for Christian Boyd. But then what do you do with a guy like Jonathan Bullard, Jonah Williams, guys who have familiarity with Brandon Staley? Like, I just don't think it's realistic that this team is going to keep 7 interior defensive linemen on the final roster. And so they're going to have to make at least one cut somewhere.
Yeah, Nathan Shepard's not going anywhere. He set out the last preseason game. He's going to be part of their plans this year for sure. So you're looking at Brzee, Godshaw, Shepard. Broughton's not going anywhere. 3rd-round pick.
I think Bullard and Boyd. I think that's your 6.
So you would cut Jonah Williams
over
then.
Jonah Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Bullard, but I don't know.
But one of those two, put it that way.
Yeah.
One of those two is going to be out.
Yeah,
I don't think they're keeping more than 6. Yeah.
And John Ridgeway just injured his pec. There's as Matt asked Kellen Moore, he did not give you like a real concrete answer on whether he'd be a potential IR candidate.
Yeah,
it's something that could pop up this week. So they are relatively deep there. I think they're deeper there than offensive line just because they've already had 2 guys from their interior offensive line go on season-ending IR, and Will Clapp and Nick Saldiveri, and then Trevor Penning is probably going to miss the start of the regular season.
Yeah,
more than likely.
Yeah, he was asked about it, and
week 1 or 2.
He was kind of wishy-washy on it.
So, that is a spot that is not nearly as deep for them now, and as we all know, I mean, like you need depth there as much as you can.
I think also he said he made that point of saying, there's a number of different vehicles kind of we can use to keep. that's telling you they're going to put some guys on IR. The pup, like they're going to
Practice squad.
They're going to manipulate. They're going to manipulate their roster as much as they can. They're going to probably cut. There's going to be some surprise cuts. There are veterans where it's like a handshake deal, where like, hey, like just come back to us. This is just
Stay
like
in
a
town.
roster thing. Don't leave town. I think they're going to be. It's going to be an interesting cut down day because of that. Because he alluded to it.
Yeah, and I think Fortner made perfect sense. I mean, they had really no depth there. They're playing an undrafted rookie every snap in preseason.
Speaking of Torricelli Simpkins, does he still make this roster, you think, at guard?
I think so, if they keep 9 offensive linemen, which most teams do.
He'd be the basically like developmental player, kind of like Christian Boyd was for him last year, where he was on the 53 all season, but he's only up for like 5 games or something like that. I mean, without knowing exactly how much it was, he's just a healthy scratch for most games. I think that probably to me is the path for Simpkins. They like what they've seen. He's put a ton of film out there in the preseason, obviously playing, all but like 6-7 snaps at that last 2-minute drive of the second game. So I don't think they want to like expose that guy to waivers just because he has put some good stuff out there. So yeah, he makes sense to me as like the last offensive lineman guy who's probably inactive for most of the games.
The only thing that we haven't really touched on with this trade is that Saunders was like just the odd man looking out of that group just because he wasn't a good fit in Brandon Staley's scheme. They had him playing backup nose tackle, but he's too small for that position. That was something that they recognized in the spring. It's why they traded for Devon Godshaw in the first place. And so, I think Saunders can go on to have a nice fit in Jacksonville. It just wasn't going to work here anymore.
Yeah, I think he was definitely going to get cut, and so they got something for him, and it actually helps. So I think it's kind of, and look, we talked about it early in camp. We're like, there's no way all these guys are going to make the defensive tackle. Was so jumbled with the interior defensive lineman. Somebody was going to be the odd man out, and I don't think he was in the best shape either, even by his standards. If you watched him, I don't think he reported at camp in the best shape.
I mean, he's one of the guys when the Saints were trying to get under the cap that we looked at as a possible move to cut because they didn't owe him any future money, and so we were a little surprised they brought him back in the first place. So
yeah, they reworked his contract. I mean, they're going to carry dead money for him next year, I think. So that was a surprising move in the moment, and still, I mean, that's playing out right now.
Yeah. Not talking about a lot of money, but still a strange move, and so that's the end of that saga. Saints have a little more O-line depth. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will talk about some things we've liked in camp, some guys that we think have popped in the first 2 preseason games, and then sort of the flip side of that. So we'll be back on the Saints Insider right after this.
Nice bike.
Thanks. Can I get it back before Saturday?
That might be tough.
Whoa. Is it just you?
For now, let's take a look.
Hi, strawberry mango. Mm-hmm. Here you go. Thank you. I'll take another one.
Did they ask you to do the commercial too?
Yeah, but they just gave me one line.
Bet like a Cesar. Like, we're going to sit here and we're going to tell them how Caesar's Sportsbook is just so easy to use that you can watch and bet thousands of sports events, even some NFL games.
They'll probably show us betting on our favourite players and teams at all the Vegas hotspots too.
Like, we have time for that montage.
I told him I couldn't do it.
They couldn't afford me.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider, brought to you by Bank Plus. Zach Ewing hanging out with our beat writers Matthew Parrish and Luke Johnson, and Times-Picayune columnist Jeff Duncan. Going to take a step back and kind of look at the first 2 preseason games. We can include the camp practices that have taken place in that time as well. But just over the last, say, 2 weeks, who has stood out and who has stepped back? Or our standouts and step backs is the terminology we're using here. So we're starting on the offensive side of the ball. Who is standing out?
Okay, do I get to go first and then
Sure.
maybe steal y'all's thunder a little bit?
Oh, that's fine.
Number 15's on the screen right now.
Yeah, Mason Tipton has been great. I'm still not sure if this is going to translate into the regular season, right? But what we've seen from him so far through both training camp, I mean, we were like gassing him up before the first preseason game even, to the first preseason game where he has a 54-yard touchdown catch on a stop and go. to this last one where he had 100 receiving yards on 6 catches, and there was the one big flaw where he didn't run out the slant route and Spencer Rattler threw the interception. But even on some of the other incomplete passes that were thrown his way, I mean, he drew a 46-yard defensive pass interference penalty. Rattler came within about 1.5 feet of hitting him for the potential game-tying touchdown on that last drive right before he hit Dante Pettis for a score. I think he's got real juice. I want to see it happen in a real game, but it's been a huge plus to see him do it in the preseason so far. Still think their receiver core is way too small. That's not changing, it appears. The news out of the NFL in the most recent days is everybody and their mother's apparently looking for a competent receiver to pair with their guy. Minnesota is.
The
Jets. I think Buffalo's still looking. They're kicking the tires on Gabe Davis, who never signed here after visiting. So I don't know if they're going to add to that, but I really like what Tipton's shown in the preseason, and if he can just even carry over half of that into the regular season, he can be a legitimate weapon for this team.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been the best receiver in camp, really, he and Rashid.
Yeah.
So the question is, like Luke said, can he translate it against real starting defensive backs, not third teamers? But that catch he made along the sidelines, kind of the key play in that 2-minute drill, was a big time play.
Yeah, the 26-yarder is a little corner route. He made a sliding catch by the sideline.
Sliding catch, knew where he was at. He's definitely made progress. I would say Kendre Miller's been important for me to see him step up. He's explosive. You can see the talent. I think he understands this is kind of a big camp for him. I think he's responded. I think he's easily secured the backup spot right now.
Yeah.
And I think you feel good about having him and Alvin Kamara now as your 1-2 punch. I don't think there's any doubt that he's the backup.
He's finally showing kind of what we thought he might a year or two ago.
Yeah, and one of the things I think in the conversations I've had with people about their rushing offense, which maybe I'll save that for the next segment here, has not been very good in the preseason. But look, I mean, you look at that Philly offense last year that Kellen Moore was the offensive play caller for. Obviously, they had a mutant in Saquon Barkley at running back, and they had the best offensive line in football. But those guys hit on so many explosive runs, 50-yard touchdowns, 30-yard runs. I think they led the NFL in runs of 20-plus yards. I don't necessarily think that's Alvin Kamara's wheelhouse. That's one thing we haven't seen out of him in the last 4 or 5 years. Even though I think he had a really good year last year, I don't think he's the game breaker type of player anymore. I think Kendre Miller can be that. We haven't seen it in the preseason necessarily, but he is working for every yard he's getting out there. And if they can get that line kind of sorted out once they get all their regular starters back in there, maybe open some bigger holes, I think you could see some potential big time explosive runs from Kendre.
Yeah, you saw him pop off a nice run that was called back because of holding. He had a 13-yard gain on 3rd down. The numbers themselves aren't impressive with Kendre Miller, but it looks like he's running strong, and that was going to be my pick. Jeff stole it from me, but I do think he's kind of locked up that second spot. My earlier 53-man projection where I left him off has now aged freezing cold. So
it could have gone that way.
It could have.
I mean, he stepped up.
It did look early in camp that he was being buried, and it was very surprising.
Yeah.
But
they kept bringing in more guys with
the
3rd team at times.
But I'll pivot and I'll go with Kelvin Banks. Maybe it's a cop-out to choose the first-round pick, but he's been the highest-rated tackle by Pro Football Focus. Those grades aren't everything, but the big question with him was he going to be able to hold up and pass block? And I still expect his rookie year to have some up and downs. He's a rookie left tackle. Those dudes, doesn't matter even if you're first-rounder. Andrew Thomas with the Giants has become an excellent left tackle, but he really struggled his rookie year. I think Fuaga has potential to be a pretty good tackle, but he struggled his rookie year. I do think that, but he's shown that he has at least the fundamentals, and the Saints are really banking on 3 spots, pardon the pun, on their offensive line. Banks at left tackle, Fuaga at right, and Penning at left guard. And if 2 of those hit, I think they'll be in okay shape. And, I think Banks, he's looking like a hit right now, even though there's still a long way to go.
I agree. I mean, look, that last Jaguars game, I mean, Jags had their 2 big-time edge rushers in there, Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. And he held his own against those guys. I think more than that. I don't think any of the pressures that Tyler Shuck got came from Banks' side. So I've been really, really, really impressed with him. I think they got a guy in Kelvin Banks.
Well, he did struggle with the run blocking, which was kind of strange.
Yeah, that was something that Brandon Thorne, when I interviewed him a few weeks ago, saying that he can lose his blocks easily in the run game. Yeah,
it's weird though. But I mean, that could also just be rookie growing pains. Like you got to figure more reps, more time on task. He's got the basic athleticism and all the things you look for. He'll get it figured out.
If you want your top 10 left tackle to do something, you want him to be a pass blocker.
Right.
I think they've got plus run blockers at least 3 of the other 4 positions. Make sure that you're slowing down the best freak athletes in football. That's his primary objective.
If you watch that play, I think Jeff Nowak actually had it on Twitter, posted on Twitter about the run that Kendre Miller looked like it was going to be a loss, and he kind of turned it into it was actually a pretty good run. He got 1 yard. So to your point about the stats don't look that good, it was actually a hell of a 1 yard run.
Right.
But that was a great example. I mean, Banks just totally gets lost or something, lets his guy get across his face, and the defensive lineman's right in Kendre Miller's face, and he has to totally improvise and go. The play was designed to go to Banks' side, and he has to go completely to the right outside and breaks a tackle by the end. It was a great play by Miller, but that's a good example of if you didn't know what you were watching, you'd think that play was designed to go right. It was completely designed to go left, and that was a Banks whiff. So he's got things to work on, but everything else is there. It's filled up.
The other guy I'll throw out as an offensive standout, just Rashid Shaheed continuing to show. I mean, nothing spectacular, but he's healthy. I think he can build on what he did last year in the first half of the season, and I think it's good to see him out there. So
and I also thought it was interesting to see how he was used.
Yeah,
they're going to give him some shots to make some yak happen.
Lots of crossing,
which I think is going to be exciting.
Yep.
Because even though last year I think he built on what he did the year prior. Primarily, he was their take the top off guy, right? A lot of posts, a lot of deep play action shots to him, and we only saw him for a little bit in that second preseason game, but it was a lot of crossers, 5-yard outs. It was get the ball in his hands quickly and let him do something with it. And I'll be really intrigued to see if we see more of that out of him and Chris Olave, Juwan Johnson. Where they're kind of getting the easy button with a chance for there to be more there on the play.
Okay, offensive step backs. Who you guys got? Who's Luke? You went first last time. Matt, who have you got? Who's kind of disappointed you in the last couple weeks?
I'm gonna go. I mean, it's unfair to pick on an injured guy, but even before that, I think he was gonna get cut. Was Bub Means? I just thought he had a stronger OTAs, and I thought I liked what he showed last year. He was, even though he's still not the tallest guy, he provided at least some size, and we just didn't see that step forward. And now it's 2 straight years with a season-ending ankle injury. I feel bad for him, but I just was expecting a little bit more there, and we didn't see it.
Guys,
I mean, we've alluded to it, but the rushing offense has been really disappointing, and not just in the preseason games. It's been evident in camp too, and that's one of the things they're going to have to hang their hat on this year if they're going to be really any semblance of the offense that Kellen Moore wants them to be. I mean, you got to help out your 2 young quarterbacks. You got all this investment on the offensive line. Probably your most accomplished playmaker is your running back, and we haven't seen Alvin Kamara. We haven't seen Eric McCoy. We've seen only a little bit of Trevor Penning. So maybe this all comes together by the regular season. They're a decent functional running offense. But I was really hoping to see it look a lot better than it has to this point. So to me, that's been one of the bigger disappointments of the first 2 preseason games is they're not clearing very many holes. They're having to fight for every yard they get, and it's really not much. It looks a lot like the rushing offense from 2 years ago, where they really just kind of bottomed out. So we'll see. I mean, maybe they can get that straightened out once they get all their guys back in, but hasn't looked good so far.
Yeah, I'd say big part of that's Cesar Ruiz, who just I know he's become like a lightning rod right now with the fan base. They always try to. Peyton used to always say, "Hang somebody." They got to hang somebody.
There's one guy. There's always one guy,
and he seems like he's the guy now. Everybody's focusing on, but he has not played that well. He's had a lot of problems in the run game and also in pass protection. And I would say Cam Akers is a guy that I think a lot of people in the building thought could be the backup, and I haven't seen anything out of him. I mean, just haven't seen really much of anything to get me excited. So I'd say that's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make the roster. I mean, between him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think they were fighting for one position.
Yeah, that's a good one. Here's my question on Ruiz, and maybe the rushing attack in general. Does the return of Eric McCoy, obviously hasn't been playing, can he be, the rising tide that kind of lifts all boats and makes those guys next to him play better? I mean, does he have?
I mean, he was last year.
Yeah. Yes.
When he was on the field last year, I think they had like 5 games where they scored 30 plus. And when he was off, I mean, granted, there was a lot of other guys who missed time in those games that he missed, but they were not good offensively.
No, he's a linchpin for their offense.
He's super, super, super important. So it could be just as simple as plugging. Look, you're talking about McCoy, who, in my opinion, is one of the best centers in the league, versus Simpkins, who's been nice. He's done some really nice things, but like that's a huge drop off.
Yeah,
you're talking best centers in the league versus like an undrafted rookie free agent who was maybe a guard coming in playing center. So like, I do think that there's certainly like a possibility that he comes in, it corrects a lot of their protection stuff that they've been having, especially like with the stunts, miscommunication on that, like the sack. The first sack in that last game was a safety blitz that nobody picked up on the right side of the formation, and then the play right after that was the intentional grounding where the Jags just ran like really just a simple stunt, and it was the crasher who knocked Ruiz off, and then just like had nobody there to pick him up. I think that was Trayvon Walker on that one, and that blew that play up. I think there's like an element when you have a veteran like McCoy in there who's handling that sort of stuff for the young quarterbacks, where he helps you out in both of those phases. But I just don't know how much, and I think we're gonna get a chance to see that when Week 1 rolls around.
Yeah, a few other things. I think Alvin Kamara has actually had a really nice camp. He's looked strong. They just haven't used him in the preseason, but I feel like he could help just that run game in general. As good as McCoy is, the line still really struggled against the Rams in that joint practice. I don't think he's good at. I think he is like such a huge upgrade, but if they struggle a little bit, even when he's in there, wouldn't it be that surprising? And then I do wonder if, because so much has been focused on this quarterback competition, that these guys need to pass the ball to put them in different situations, that if the trade-off of that is the run game hasn't gotten as much attention, and maybe the reason it looks a little bit sloppy now is just because they've spent so much time trying to evaluate these quarterbacks, where once you get into the regular season, you focus more on a dialed-in game plan, you're running the reps over and over in practice, like then the run game starts to click a little bit more as the season goes on.
Yeah, all good points. Okay, those are our offensive standouts and step backs. How about on defense? Guys who have stood out to you. I know you wrote about one this week, Luke, who maybe we want to start with.
Yeah, I have really been impressed by Jonas Sanker. And obviously he made the big splashy play at the end, kind of right place, right time, made the interception. If you watch that play, he was shading toward the middle of the field, but he recognized where the quarterback's eyes were and shaded back toward that side, and that's why he was in the right place when Rajon Wright tipped that ball and tipped it right to him. So I think he's a really instinctive player. I think he's a really physical player. There was a screen pass in that game where the Saints were sending a corner blitz from like the left side of their defense, and Sanker instinctively understood that like they might be going to the side that blitz is coming from. So he almost immediately replaces Ugo Amadi, the blitzer, and then the ball goes his way, and he just decleats the lead blocker on the screen and knocks him back into the receiver. He took out 2 guys on one play. And that's like the sort of physicality you see from him and play recognition. And he's not even going to be a starter. Like, I really like what they have in that safety room. Julian Blackmon's been awesome in training camp. I think Justin Reed, for my initial, I don't know about that signing, has been nothing but a positive for this team. I think they have a chance to be really, really good at safety. And considering this scheme that they're playing in with Brandon Staley, I mean, those guys are going to play crucial roles. And I think that includes Sanker. I think they're going to find ways to get 3 safeties on the field, because I think he might be one of their best 11 defensive players.
Who else?
Yeah, those are great points, because Sanker did pop out on that tape. Look, I mean, this is a no-brainer. I'm probably taking your guy again, but I mean, I think Kool-Aid McKinstry was a guy who, coming into the season, I wasn't sure, what they had in him, and I think, in my opinion, he and Chase Young have been the 2 best defensive players throughout camp, and I feel really good about him as a starter and a blossoming kind of sophomore guy. I mean, I think there's something to be said for him coming kind of in late last year, wasn't in shape. You can explain away some of the rookie problems he had, but he looks like a different guy now. I mean, he may be the most confident guy out there too, and that's huge at that position. And considering where they were a year ago, and they lose a Debo, they trade Lattimore, they had to have him step up. And to me, I don't worry about him at all at that corner spot. So he's popped out to me, and not a lot of other guys, to be honest with you, have popped out defensively other than him.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah. Blackmon has been so good that I kind of think he's maybe an upgrade over Tyrann Mathieu. Like, they maybe stumbled into that. So putting him aside, we mentioned him earlier, but Nathan Shepard, man, like, was in an actual competition, like, actually had to fight for his job, and he ran away with it. Like, they tried Bullard there. They signed Bullard late into camp to kind of be like, oh, is this, like, is Shepard going to be cut? I don't think he's had, like, an amazing camp to where I've noticed him all the time, but he's clearly doing something with where the coaches are noticing him. And for him not to even play in that second preseason game, I think was really telling. He's kind of, and in the first preseason game when he did play, he played like the fewest snaps of the defensive starters. Like, he's won that job, and I think it's been impressive.
Well, that's the thing about the defense. Now, this isn't the case, like the joint practice with the Rams and stuff, but in the 2 preseason games, Shepard played a few snaps, Brian Brzee played a few snaps. Are any other starters even playing?
McKinstry played the first preseason game.
I think they've kind of settled on like 9-10 defensive spots, which to me is probably a good sign that they don't feel like they need to see it, from these guys.
Yeah, the one thing they haven't done, which I'm a little interested by, is they haven't really experimented with Quincy Riley with the ones at all. And it doesn't even need to be outside. Like, I think they like Ike Yadam, at least for now, that veteran presence. But it has been surprising to me a little bit that after Alontae Taylor has, been out now for a few weeks with this groin injury, they've had Ugo Amadi and Terrell Burgess in there. Like, they have not experimented with Riley at nickel at all. And he did that at Louisville, right, Jeff?
He played a little bit
there. So
I think they don't want to overwhelm him, probably.
Right, but like, I get that. But is it better than, I feel like training camp is also the time to experiment with it a little bit. And so I'm just surprised we haven't seen it.
Yep, same.
Well, on that note, some of the guys who have stepped back defensively, this is a little bit harder because, like we said, with so many positions have now been established, that who are you going to pick on?
I think we all have a name.
Who are you going to pick on?
No, well, I'm going to go thematically. So you take the name.
Well, Isaiah Foskey.
He's the picture down there too.
Okay. He just hasn't done anything, and
they've given him a chance, man.
He's out there.
They've given him every chance.
So many chances. Rome wasn't built in a day, but Rome will not be built here. Is kind of the. I don't see any reason to keep him.
Yeah.
That was I was really high on him when they picked him. I mean, like, he checked all the boxes. He was big. He had a great testing numbers at the combine. He was productive at Notre Dame. He's a team captain. All the stuff that you would typically want in a player, and it just hasn't even come close to working out here. And it's been like evident from like day one. It's a shame, but like it's just like I think at this point probably a change of scenery would benefit him too if he can find another team to latch on with, because it's just it is not working here.
Right, and at least with like Peyton Turner, as injured as he was, and maybe he wasn't as productive, you at least saw it in flashes. Like with Foskey, I just don't see it, especially this year. Like last year, there was maybe a practice or two where he looked like good, but I just haven't. It's been so quiet. And they're just other guys for that fourth, if they keep 4 edge rushers, Chris Rump, Fidel Diggs, Sheen Davis before he got hurt. And the last 2 are a 7th-round rookie and an undrafted free agent. And Foskey is being overshadowed by those guys. It's tough for him, man. I feel bad for him a little bit.
You can kind of see it too. Like he's down. I mean, you can just see it in his body language and during games, in the locker room yesterday. I think he knows the handwriting's on the wall, and he's had opportunities. I mean, they played him, I think, more snaps than anybody on defense to see what they have, and he just is not. He doesn't really fit, I don't think, very well here. And he looks like, just to me, the classic tweener. Not athletic and bendy enough to be the size, be that size. He's not big enough and powerful enough, so he's just kind of a classic tweener, and that happens in the league. The Saints are people. The problem is people act like they're the only team that's ever missed on a guy. Happens all the time, man. There's all kinds of guys go in the first round, and there's such a premium on trying to find edge rushers. Go to Atlanta. Look how many guys they've gone through. It's hard to get those guys, so they wouldn't be the first team to miss on a guy.
Yep. All right. Luke, you mentioned.
I mean, look, we just got done talking about how they haven't played basically any of their starters in the preseason. I mean, this last game against the Jaguars, I think Yadam was the only starter they had out there. But, I mean, after watching him just get absolutely torched on the ground last year, it has not been very good to see them get absolutely torched on the ground in the preseason. I think Devon Godshaw is going to play a big part in that, and then you obviously got Pete Werner, Demario Davis, yada, yada, yada. Maybe it's going to be good, but I mean, it's concerning. It's concerning to me that they've just really struggled against the opposing rushing attack so far in 2 preseason games. Like, I'm not gonna overly stress about it. I still think the defense has been in pretty good hands to start training camp. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, the Saints' rushing attack hasn't looked very good against that defense in training camp practices. But I don't know. I kind of want to see it. And the numbers last year were really, really bad. It's a new scheme, some new players in there. I think there's a chance it gets a lot better once the regular season comes around. But it's definitely keeping it in the back pocket for now, because it hasn't looked good during the preseason games. Yeah,
I think this is where the safety upgrades really matter too. Justin Reed has a reputation for really being reliable against the run. Julian Blackman, I think, is respectable there. So, and they haven't really played either in the preseason. So, I do think you're going to see at least some improvement in the box. I think Godshaw has been important for them. To me, the more concern is not necessarily the run game; it's the tackling. And we saw
that was a big part of their failing last year.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that goes into run defense, obviously, but there are just guys on this roster, when you put them in position to make an open field tackle, they don't do so. And that to me wonders if it's more of a personnel issue than it is a schematic issue.
Well, and I also wonder, too, tackling sometimes can be an effort and an attitude thing. And last year, obviously, that got down to a pretty low level.
Shout out Willie Gay.
I mean, if you're in a situation where I wasn't going to single anyone out, but
I just meant that
he came out this week and said he checked out about week 11
I missed
year.
That. All right. Well, so Willie Gay, he singled himself out.
Yeah.
But you can see that happening again, right? Like, I mean, if the offense is putting the defense back out there, defense gets a turnover, offense gives it right back, sort of thing. Like, you can see that happening, especially once we get into week 6, week 7, week 8. If things are not going well, I don't know. Then this sort of thing starts to creep up again.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but like that is hypothetical. It's like we just don't know how the season's going to play out. I am still optimistic that they can be better this year. Yeah. Because like we haven't seen their starters at all during the preseason. But I'm just throwing it out there that it has been a concern for me where
it can't be worse.
I mean
that can.
I mean,
it can always be worse.
The Panthers were somehow worse than the Saints were last year by a lot. The Saints were the number 31 run defense in the NFL, and the Panthers gave up like 25 more yards per game than they did.
But if we had to guess, it's going to get better than number 31.
I would guess, but like it has been concerning for me watching these preseason games where it's like a 3rd and 5 and they're running for 7 yards. It's like it's not good.
I was impressed by Jacksonville's running backs. They had some good backs. They were about 4 deep.
They have the rookie kid
Tootin
from Virginia.
Yeah, Tootin, who looks good.
Bashal Tootin. Something like that.
Yeah, and Tank Bigsby had a nice
Tank Bigsby, and they got ATN's a former first rounder. So, I mean, they've got some guys. And I think Liam Cohen, going back to last year, I mean, Bucks kind of shredded the Saints with him as the offensive coordinator. So I think he's a smart play caller, et cetera. Chargers are going to be a good running football team this year. But, I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more oomph out of that run game, even without the starters in there.
We're going to find out right off the bat. They got James Conner, Christian McCaffrey, who supposedly is healthy, and then Seattle.
Kubiak is going to want to run the hell out of the ball. Right. And then Buffalo, I think Buffalo had the number 3 or 4 rushing offense in the NFL last year. So, they are definitely going to be tested.
Yeah. Okay, so we've almost made it. The third preseason game is Saturday. We will be back with a pod on Friday.
You're not going to have to ask Jeff for his defensive...
did you have a defensive step back?
I think y'all covered it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. We did a good job.
My bad. Yeah. Okay, but we will be back on Friday. Rod will be here. I will not. And they will preview the Broncos game. Might have an idea at that point of who's going to be playing or not playing, or maybe we won't. We'll find out. If not on Friday, we'll find out on Saturday. And then it will finally be the countdown to the regular season. So we'll get some bold predictions in there. We'll get some season predictions in there.
Hell yeah.
And all that stuff is coming right up.
Got to ask Rod how many sacks he thinks Chase Young is going to get.
Matthew Hayball was my special teams step back. So we're going to that's next week, I guess.
The guy's sitting on his couch somewhere. You just took a shot at him.
I'm just saying, he stepped back.
I'm watching this in Australia at like 2 a.m. or whatever time it is there.
Come on, mate. All right. That'll be that for us. For Norman Bell, our producer, he's Matthew Paris, Luke Johnson, and Jeff Duncan. I'm Zach Ewing. This has been the Saints Insider.